Quick thank you to everyone for joining us on today's call. We're just a little over 2 hours from the launch of the Bangabandhu satellite mission and the first flight of Falcon 9 Block 5. We have about 30 minutes for today's call to discuss the upgrades made to the Falcon 9 launch vehicle, and we'd like to get through as many of your questions as possible in that time. So that conversation flowing, please limit your questions to today's topic. With that, I would now like to turn it over to Elon to make any brief remarks before we open up for questions. Elon?
All right, great. We're definitely going to stay on space. Don't even try. I'm really excited about this launch. This is going to be SpaceX's 9th launch of 2018. By this time last year, we had only done 5 orbit class missions. So things go well today. Touch every form of wood I can find. We're on track to be double our launch rate last year, which was a record launch rate for us, and effectively Falcon 9 was the most launched rocket worldwide of 2017. If things go well, big caveat, then SpaceX will launch more rockets than any other country in 2018. To date, we've done 55 missions to orbit. We've completed 55 successful missions to orbit, 52 with Falcon 9, 1 with Heavy, and 2 with Falcon 1. We've been able to land 24 of the first stage boosters, 11 on land, 13 on a drone ship, and we've reflown 11. So we only tried to land the first stage boosters somewhat late into the program. That's about a 50% success rate. Once we started landing them, the success rate was to 90%, and in recent times it's been, except for the Center Core Falcon Heavy, it's been 100%. So, with the goals with Block 5, which is really quite, I think that perhaps the word block is a bit strange. We kind of adopted it from the Russians. This is arguably Falcon 9 version 6 in sort of normal vernacular, because we had version 1.1 was really like version 2, arguably a version in between that, and then a bunch of blocks. So we should probably just go back and I'm sure the internet's already done this, and have a more sensible description of the versioning. But think of it as like at least version 6 of the rocket, and this will be the last major version of Falcon 9. There'll be minor improvements for just kind of small manufacturability, make reflight easier, improve flight reliability, of course, and so there'll be a handful of small changes. So I would expect, like, if this is hypothetically version 6, what's sort of 6.01, like 6.02 type thing, but with minor changes that are supported by, provided they're supported by our key customers in commercial satellite launch, NASA, and the Air Force. So this will be the last major version of Falcon 9 before VFR, and we expect this to be the mainstay of the SpaceX business. We think probably wind up doing something on the order of 300 flights, maybe more, of Falcon 9 Block 5 before retirement. One of the biggest goals of Block 5 / version 6 maybe more. But we think it's made somewhat moot because it'll be superseded by VFR at that point. Our goal, just to give you a sense of how reusable we think design can be, we intend to demonstrate 2 orbital launches of the same Block 5 vehicle within 24 hours, no later than next year. So it's going to take some refinement. We're very careful and deliberate about this. But that would be, I think, truly remarkable to launch an orbit-class rocket, the same orbit-class rocket, twice in one day. Because there's really only so much work you could even do in one day, and much of it consists of transporting the rocket from its landing site back to the launch site, mounting a new satellite on the rocket, and loading propellant and going, and doing all of that within 24-hour periods while maintaining a very high level of mission assurance. That's extraordinarily difficult. I think that would be a very exciting outcome. The second most important thing, well, actually, I should say really that was the second most important thing. The first most important thing was addressing all of NASA's human rating requirements. So we meet or exceed all of NASA's human rating requirements for Block 5, and they are quite extensive, as well as meet all of the Air Force Intel requirements for extreme reliability. So this really is, I mean, really don't want to jinx fate here, but this rocket is really designed to be the intent. It's to be the most reliable rocket ever built. That is the design intent. I hope fate does not punish me for these words, but that's unequivocally the intent. And I think our customers would agree, our most conservative customers would agree with that. That is the accurate statement. Please, fate does not punish me for this. Intentions are good. In terms of performance upgrades, it also has a number of those. The Merlin engines, engine thrust is increased by approximately 8% to 190,000 tons of thrust at sea level. We think there's probably a little more room there, maybe going up to 10% or so, as well as some small increases in specific impulse of a few seconds. So both the efficiency of the engine and the thrust of the engine have increased, while not increasing, making any material change to the mass of the engine. So the thrust weight engine is getting truly incredible at this point. It was already the highest thrust weight engine in the world, and it's gotten even so. The vacuum version of Merlin increased in thrust by 5% to 210,000 pound force. To 220,000 pound force. But we will be decoupling this engine on the first flight to assess the vibration and acoustic environment. So it will currently be operating at its old thrust level, just throttling down essentially. It's a new engine operating at 5% below its rated thrust. So we'll be operating at 210,000 pounds thrust. But again, that's something we expect to increase by 5%, maybe 10% down the road. We were getting very careful about the envelope expansion of the thrust of the engines. I also have a lot of new thermal protection technology. You'll note aesthetically the black interstage. That is the structure that joins the upper and lower stage, as well as the raceways and landing legs. They're all used in new thermal protection material we developed at SpaceX, which is intended to be highly reusable and does not require paint. It's specifically hydrophobic as to not trap water, and so it's basically it's really quite a challenging thing to do, to make something that essentially is environmental proof but does not require paint. Actually, I kind of like the aesthetics of it more. In fact, if you look back at the old Falcon 1 rocket, I really liked having the black interstage, because the interstage is made of carbon fiber, and I think it added a different aesthetic to the rocket. Obviously, aesthetics are a minor factor in rocket design, but I still like the fact that we've returned, with nostalgic reasons, to having a black interstage. we have the afterwork, which is the primary load bearing structure at the bottom of the rocket. That is essentially the engine bay. That is what carries the load of the 9 engines in the base, as well as protects each of the 9 engines from the other. So if one of the engines were to go awry, in principle, each one is in a protected bay, and a failure of an engine on the boost stage would not affect the success of the mission, in theory. Again, an ORTEC base. But this is a much stronger octolith structure. It's made of a much higher strength bolted aluminum, a 7,000 series instead of a 2,000 series. So the strength of the afterwork is dramatically greater. It also has quite a bit of thermal protection on the inside in case there's, say, an engine fire or something like that, such that it does not melt the afterwork. The landing legs, you'll notice if you look carefully that there are no sort of outward scallops on the perimeter of the landing leg, which were used to clamp down the leg during ascent. We've now brought those features inside the leg itself. So you see sort of a cleaner outer contour, and it has an internal latch mechanism that can be opened and closed repeatedly with ease. So essentially, deploying the landing gear and stowing the landing gear is now a very easy thing to do, whereas previously it required several hours to restow the landing gear. This can now be done with an actuator very, very easily. We're now operating consistently with the titanium grip fins, and have now moved away from the aluminum grip fins that were non-reusable because they got cooked pretty hard during reentry, particularly during a geostationary entry. So we think it's the largest titanium forging in the world. Looks like a giant bear claw with the new grip fins. It looks really cool, I think. And they're capable of withstanding on the order of 1,000 degrees Celsius, 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, thereabouts, and require no work between flights, which is also great. The base heat shield on the rocket, I'm giving you a lot of technical information. Hopefully this is interesting. I'm happy to answer any detailed technical questions you may have as well following this, within the bounds of ITAL constraints. The reason I base heat shield is also a big improvement, and we replaced the old composite structure with a high temperature titanium structure to support rapid reuse. The base heat shield will also be in some parts actively cooled with water. So we're finding that some things are really just during the very high heating phases of reentry. Ascent is not a problem, but during very high heat phases of reentry, where if you have a hypersonic shock impingement, generates a very hot spot, and you kind of have to use a high melting point material, high temperature material, plus active water cooling in certain places on the base of the heat shield. And then we have upgraded all the avionics as well. So this has a upgraded flight computer, engine controllers, a new, more advanced initial measurement system, and we've eliminated the whole avionics tower. So we've managed to then I suspect you're probably going to ask me about the reusable upper stage. Nothing. The only thing we're doing in the upcoming flights is gathering data about the Braintree experience of the upper stage. Previously, there's not been a lot of evidence gathering data of the upper stage after it does its disposal burn. So we're required to do a disposal burn and have the stage re-enter and break up basically in unpopulated areas in the Pacific. And we've not really monitored in detail at what altitude and speed the stage breaks up and under what conditions. So we're going to learn more and more about that in the upcoming flights. We're going to put effort into learning that, which is tricky because when it comes in, it's coming like a meteor, so it's got this sort of ball of plasma, and you could actually only broadcast sort of diagonally backwards and up. So we'll be looking to communicate with probably the Iridium constellation and try to transmit basic data about temperature, state of the stage, velocity and altitude, and then gradually, of course, this year we will be adding more and more thermal protection to the upper stage and try to see what the least mass, what's the least amount of mass necessary to return the upper stage in a condition that is reusable. Actually, I'm quite confident that we'll be able to achieve full reusability of the upper stage. In fact, I'm certain we can achieve full reusability of the upper stage. The question is simply what the mass penalty is, and we don't want to put too much engineering effort into that relative to PFR, and we obviously will not take any action that creates risk for the ascent phase of the rocket, and that puts any of our customer spacecraft in jeopardy. So this would be sort of an add-on that is effectively just going to be like incremental cargo on the ascent phase, essentially be inert on the ascent phase, and then take action on the entry phase. But that'll be very exciting if we can achieve the primary boost stage, which is the most, that's about half the cost of the rocket. Then on the order of that, half, yeah. If we say marginal cost of launch, you've got the extra boost stage is probably close to like 60% of the cost. The upper stage is about 20% of the cost. Fairing is about 10%, and then about 10% which is associated with the launch itself. So if we're able to reuse all elements of the rocket, first will be the first ever fully reused orbital vehicle of any kind, and then we would be able to reduce the cost per launch by an order of magnitude, and then as our launch rate increases, we can further optimize the per launch costs, because the propellant only costs about $300,000 or so per launch. So that's really a tiny, tiny number. Maybe 400,000 depending on how you count it. So if we're able to reduce the costs of operation and the fixed costs and whatnot, then we could really, even with Falcon 9, get down to, we still have to do ocean recovery, which adds a few $1 million. But we maybe will get the marginal cost of a Falcon 9 launch down, fully considered down under $5 or $6 million. So that would be quite exciting. All right, with that, I can happy to jump to questions.
At this time, I would like to remind everyone, in order to ask a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Our first question comes from the line of Irina Klomps of Aviation Week. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, thanks very much, Elon, and appreciate the briefing. I wanted to know if the Block 5 scheduled to launch today is the same configuration you plan to use for commercial crew. In other words, if successful, will this flight count towards the 1 of 7 that NASA is requiring before astronauts fly?
I believe it will. That's my understanding, but I could be mistaken.
the line of Bill Harwood of CBS News. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Thank you very much. Elon, when you say minimal refurb between flights, does that mean you just haul it back, put it on the pad, gas it up, and fly it, and you don't need to inspect turbines or anything like that? And I'm wondering what all those upgrades might be doing to the cost of the rocket, if anything. Thanks.
Sorry, it was a little hard to hear you. Could you repeat the question?
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering, when you say minimal refurb between flights, I'm trying to get a grip on what that actually means. You don't need to inspect turbines or anything like that? And what do all these upgrades do anything to the cost of your rocket? Thanks.
So yeah, correct. Sorry, for some of your line is not coming through so clearly to me. But we expect there to be literally no action taken, no necessary action taken between flights. So it's just like an aircraft. It's just a case of we do need to basically take the rocket from its landing pad, rotate it horizontal, stow the legs, take it to the launch pad, attach an upper stage, attach a fairing with a payload, then transport it out to the launch pad, rotate vertically, load propellant, and fly. Then in principle, that is literally all that's necessary. And for those that know rockets, this is a ridiculously hard thing. And it's taken us, since 2002, 16 years of extreme effort and many, many iterations and thousands of small but important development changes to get to where we think this is even possible. Crazy hard.
Thanks.
And of course, we still need to demonstrate it, so it's not like we've done it, but we believe it can be done.
Eric Berger, your line is open. Please go ahead.
Hi, Elon. Thanks very much for doing this. I'm wondering what your plans are for this particular booster in terms of getting to a second and a third flight. Is that something that you guys have put a timeline on?
Sorry, again, the call quality is not that great. Can you say that again?
What is your plan for the second and third use of this rocket? How soon are we going to get to a third flight of a Block 5?
First reflight. We are going to be very rigorous in taking this rocket apart and confirming our design assumptions to be confident that it is indeed able to be reused without being taken apart. Ironically, we need to take it apart to confirm that it does not need to be taken apart. So this rocket probably won't refly for probably a couple months. But essentially by late this year, we should be seeing substantial reflight of Block 5 vehicles, probably with some Block 5 boosters being their third, maybe their fourth reflight. And once we get to next year, I think we'll start seeing the first, towards the end of next year, we'll see the first Block 5 seeing the 10th flight. And like I said, next year is when we intend to demonstrate reflight of the same primary rocket booster within basically a same-day reflight of the same rocket. I think that's really a key milestone.
Your next question comes from the line of Lauren Grush of The Verge. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hey, Lauren.
Hi, Elon. Hi, nice to talk to you. I was wondering if you could outline what specifications were needed to make this rocket human-rated for commercial crew, and also when can we see a Block 5 fly Crew Dragon for the first time?
Sure. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of requirements. Many of them are so esoteric it's difficult for even experienced rock people to know what we're talking about. So higher margins of safety in the structural drop vehicle. Like a typical rule of thumb would be for launching a satellite, you need to design the rockets 25% margins. Essentially, if you take your worst case flight load, worst possible scenario that the rocket would encounter, and then add 25% to that, the rocket has to be designed to 25% above the worst case expected load. For the case of a satellite launcher, for a human-rated launcher, it has to be designed to 40% above the worst case loads. So that's like 40 versus 25, and those 15 points are really difficult to do while not making your rocket really heavy. Really difficult. That's hardcore stuff. Pushing limits of physics here. And then also fault tolerance. So the avionics of the rocket have to be capable of multiple faults occurring and still being orbit. Obviously, Falcon 9 boost stage has an advantage with the redundant engines. You could lose any one of the engines at any time and still complete the mission. And actually, depending upon where you are in flight, you could even lose 2 or 3 engines and still complete the mission. That's actually quite helpful. Just like having a multi-engine aircraft. And then even for things like stage separation, confirming that we have full redundancy on all the latches and all the control mechanisms, all the way down to the control valves, the electronics, the wiring. It's designed like a commercial airliner relative to, say, a general aviation aircraft. And those details getting all those details right is immensely difficult. And for example, for the composite overwrap pressure vessels, they're actually rated to twice. The burst pressure of the composite overwrap pressure vessels has to be more than twice what they're actually loaded to on the pad. So these are substantially improved what we call COPVs, composite overwrap pressure vessels containing high pressure green and nitrogen immersed in the fuel oxygen tanks. And those are, we have tested the length times out of those things, 17 lengths a Sunday. So obviously we had that failure a few years ago. We want to make sure that it's extremely robust. The list goes on. But like I said, we feel really confident in our customers, our most conservative customers and partners, Air Force and NASA. We would also feel good about the design intent for this rocket, but I really don't want to test the potential because there's a lot of new things in this rocket that could potentially go wrong. It could be just one small design error. There could be 1,000 things that go right in this rocket and one that goes wrong. And the passing grade for rockets, the reason that it's so hard to make an orbital rocket work is that your passing grade is 100%. And you can't fully and properly test an orbital rocket until it launches, because you can't recreate those exact conditions on Earth. Everything's sort of a proxy for traveling hypersonically through a vacuum. Anyway, I'm stressed. I'm like PTSD. I hope you guys, any good wishes would be appreciated.
Your next question comes from the line of James Dean of Florida Today. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hey, James? Hey, James, we can't hear you for some reason.
I'll try again. Best wishes?
Yep, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, your approach of kind of tinkering with the rocket design over an 8-year period was not, really the norm in the industry. I just wondered if you could talk about that. Is that evidence of your, Silicon Valley roots, and how do you think that sort of influenced your success to date and the industry at large? That willingness to keep trying different things and changing designs.
Well, I think it's important to appreciate the fundamental motivation that I have, and I think that the team at SpaceX has, which is that we really want SpaceX to be a forcing function for dramatically improving space technology to the point that it would enable humanity to become a multi-planet species, get out there and have a base on the moon, Mars, and ultimately even on the outer planets. Really extend the scope and scale of consciousness and make sure that in the hopefully unlikely event of something happening on Earth, that the light of consciousness is not extinguished. This is, I think, an extremely important thing to secure. It's not going to matter for me. I'll be long dead. Nor is it any kind of picnic to go out there and establish self-sustaining bases. I don't know if it's dangerous. People are going to die. It's difficult. Very few people will want to take on the danger and discomfort. But I think it's a very important thing for the future of humanity and for also preserving life as we know it on Earth. Because I think we are life's agents and have some responsibility as life's agents to do the right thing. So from our standpoint, it was really critical to keep advancing rocket technology and achieve full and rapid reusability, in the absence of which spaceflight would always be far too expensive. As you probably heard me say, if aircraft were not reusable and you needed a new one for every flight, then each ticket would cost millions of dollars at least one way, and you need two for a two-way trip, and almost no one would be able to afford to fly. And that's the situation with expendable rockets today. But having reached achieve reusability, then tickets can go from being several $1 million to a few $1,000s or a few $100s for short trips, and then fundamentally, spaceflight would be open to almost anyone, just as flight is. And so that's why we did all this. We could have stopped innovating a long time ago and still had basically a very high market share, a majority share of the world's commercial launch market. That wouldn't have been consistent with our philosophical goal.
Your next question comes from the line of Brendan Byrne of WMSE. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hey, Elon, how many of these Block 5 boosters do you expect you'll have in rotation around the Florida launch facilities? And is that where the every 10-flight maintenance will occur?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, we're going to have a lot of rocket capacity. It's one number of Bangabandhu, which is 80% of our launch may likely be out of the Cape and be 25% out of vehicles at Bangabandhu in the Cape. For our South Texas launch site, will be dedicated to BFR because we can have enough capacity with two launch complexes at Cape Canaveral and one at Bangabandhu to handle all of the Falcon 9 Falcon Heavy missions. But yeah, it's going to build up. We'll have a space, which is pretty exciting. The idea of having a space-based rocket.
I'm sorry, you broke up at the start there. How many do you expect to have in the rotation?
I think probably, just to be safe, we'll probably have about 30.
Great. Thanks, Elon.
Call it 30 to 50. It depends on, it's heavily dependent on what number of customers insist on launching a new rocket. But I think the general sentiment will change from being, from feeling like a flown rocket is scary to an unflown rocket is scary. Just like, would you rather fly in an aircraft that's never had a test flight before, or would you rather fly in an aircraft that has flown many times successfully? And I think that certainly I'm pilot, and I've flown a lot of aircraft, and I said about aircraft design, I definitely would far prefer to fly in an aircraft that has flown many times successfully than one that has never flown. But weirdly, that we have the opposite sentiment in rocket land. But I think that sentiment over time will change to the point where people will actually prefer to fly on a flight-proven rocket than one that has never flown.
Your next question comes from the line of Caleb Henry of Space News. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, Elon. Question about the price range that you talked about long-term for the Falcon 9. You mentioned $5 to $6 million. When do you project being able to provide those prices?
Yeah, and I do want to emphasize that those are long-term marginal cost of flight costs. So those are not prices that are marginal cost of flight long-term, meaning it would take, 3 years or so to get there. And then we are going to need to then see, we still have a bunch of fixed costs to cover that need to be divided over that number of flights. And we need to try to recover the development cost of recovery and pay for BFR and pay for the Starlink constellation. So we do expect to see a steady reduction in prices, and we already have reduced prices from where they were from about $60 million to about $50 million for a reflown booster. This is by far the most competitive price in the world for a Falcon 9 class vehicle. And it's kind of cool. We're seeing a response from other organizations, so Russia, Europe, and China that are responding and being more competitive, which is good. So we're serving as a forcing function for other launch organizations to improve their pricing. We're seeing announcements about reusability. China just announced that they're going to develop a reusable rocket, I think similar to Falcon 9, which we think is a good thing. And Europe is going to do something similar. And I assume Russia will also do something similar. So hopefully SpaceX, like Tesla, is a good forcing function for improving the technology in the industry, and then helping open access to space to as many people as possible.
Next question comes from the line of Tim Fernholt of Quartz. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, Elon. Thanks for doing this. I just wanted to ask a quick question about the refurbishment process as it happened entirely. Can you give us a sense of the previously flown boosters, how much of the avionics they had to be replaced beyond some of the structural reusability features you just mentioned?
Sorry, the line's not that strong. I missed the question.
I was just asking about if you had some tangible examples of the previous boosters, what doesn't need to be fixed or refurbished now. Were you taking out all of the avionics before the Block 4 boosters had to refly? Just to get a sense. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't that bad, actually. With Block 4, with most of the way towards Block 5. And in fact, we have tested portions of what's on Block 5, like the titanium group fins on Block 4. Like Block 4 would optimize to probably about a week's worth of refurbishment if pushed. Maybe 10 days of work between flights. Really not that much. But Block 5 is designed to be 10 times better than that and be capable of same-day flights, just 2 flights in 24 hours. And it consists of hundreds of little things that need to be made more robust, or we need incremental sensors to be able to assess the vehicle health without taking things apart. It's amazing how many hundreds of little things make a difference. And then, as mentioned, Block 5 also has improved payload to orbit, improved redundancy, improved reliability. It's really better in every way than Buckful. I'm really proud of the SpaceX team for this design. We spent a tremendous amount of time on it. I've gone over every detail that I could fit in my brain, and I was really impressed with the quality of work that the SpaceX team has done here. Come what may in this launch, I know that we have a really great team. Couldn't be more proud of them, and I know that they've done everything they can to make this go well.
One follow-up, if I can, is just if you can talk about what role NASA may have had in helping SpaceX reach the requirements, particularly around human spaceflight.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, actually. NASA's been an amazing partner for us. I think I may have mentioned on in private calls that I love NASA so much that literally my password was I love NASA at one point. It's not anymore, don't try it. But I still love NASA. I can't tell you my password. We wouldn't be where we are today without not just the support of NASA in recent years, but all the incredible work that NASA did through the Apollo program and beyond. That they've been a wonderful partner and a great help. And sometimes it's to be totally frank, they can just like a friend that really cares, they can be a pain in the ass. But I love NASA so much. And I should say, I would also credit the Air Force and the intel community with helping us improve the robustness of the rocket in many small ways, as well as the FAA for their support.
Your next question comes from the line of Stephen Clark of Spaceflight Now. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Hi, Elon. Thanks for chatting with us before the launch. We know astronauts will one day be launching on the Block 5, and I understand NASA is still studying whether they're going to be comfortable with the load-and-go fueling process. And I know you and SpaceX have a different view of the risk in that operation. So do you think you can convince NASA of the safety of the load-and-go fueling process, and would you be willing to change or adjust that procedure for commercial crew if NASA requests it? Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that issue has been somewhat overblown. We certainly could load the propellants and then have the astronauts board Dragon. That's certainly something we could do. But I don't think it's going to be necessary any more than passengers on an aircraft need to wait until the aircraft is full of fuel before boarding. I mean, that would be pretty silly if everyone's like, well, the aircraft's filling with fuel. Now you can't board. But no, it's normal to load propellant, load fuel on an aircraft while boarding, or have the fuel fully loaded before boarding. It's not a fundamental risk. We need to make sure that things like the COPVs, I'd say like the only material it's going to wear is the COPV, and the amount of testing and research that's running for COPV safety is gigantic. This is by far the most advanced pressure vessel ever developed by humanity. It's nuts. And I've personally gone over that design. I lost count how many times. But the top engineering minds at SpaceX have agonized over this. We've tested the living daylights out of it. We've been in deep discussions with NASA about this, and I think we're in a good situation. We do have a contingency plan for the CFDVs, which I'd like to say would really be the only thing that represents the risk of any materiality. Just would be a switch from carbon fiber over at high strength carbon fiber with aluminum liner to something like an Inconel sphere, We do have a contingency plan for that, if need be, but I think that is unlikely to be necessary. But that's really the only thing I would consider to be the risk. This is really not something that should be. I mean, obviously, our competitors are going to make hay of this, but I really do not see this as a risk represent any materiality. At worst case scenario, we've already demonstrated that Dragon is fully capable of a safe abort from zero velocity, zero altitude, and escaping whatever viable may occur on the pad, even in a worst case situation. So I really do not think this presents a safety issue for astronauts. But if for any reason it proves that it did, then we can adjust our operational procedures to load propellants before the astronauts board. But I really think this is an overblown issue.
Our last question comes from the line of Dave Mosher of Business Insider. Please go ahead. Your line is open.
Thanks for doing this call, Elon. I really appreciate it. So you mentioned Block 5 has about 300 flights left before you retire it and you transition to BFR. I just would love any kind of update you could provide on that program. How's the construction going on the first spaceship? Any notable manufacturing challenges or successes?
All right.
And how's their timeline looking?
Questions that relate to, I would love to go on and on about BFR, but today it is about Block 5. And so if you have a Block 5 question, that's cool. Otherwise, we'll have to find the BFR call later.
Sure. Yeah, I would love a BFR call later. But about Block 5, so the 300 flights that are left, you said this was version 6. I guess how many versions do you have left? You mentioned the party balloon, the fairing 2, and so on. When do you plan to sort of fully lock this design for the Falcon 9?
Well, like I said, we know further major versions of Falcon 9 after Block 5. There'll be minor improvements as we discover them from history for improving reliability, robustness, reusability. Maybe some places where we think performance can be increased without affecting reliability. So it'll be like, these are really sort of minor refinements. Will not be a Block 6. We tend to stabilize on the Block 5 platform and have no further major upgrades.
Okay, Elon, this is James again. I just want to thank everybody for joining today's call. And Elon, if you want to close it with any remarks, that'd be great.
Thanks everyone for joining. Those are really great questions. Whatever happens today, and I know that the SpaceX team has really worked incredibly hard, sacrificed many nights and weekends for a very talented group to make this launch successful. And I just couldn't be prouder of and more honored to work with such a great team. So hopefully all goes as planned, and we do a great job for the people of Bangladesh today. Thank you.
This concludes today's conference call. You may now disconnect.